Hey guys, welcome back to this YouTube channel. We're shooting the final video in the mid-May update series. And as you know, this series goes over data that I collect on my spreadsheets and create graphs that are generally not in any of the public reports by the Calgary Real Estate Board or just not publicly available. And I use this to analyze what's the state of the market, understand the trends, not just over the last 2 weeks, because we can't just rely on the market report that comes at the start of the month or wait around for the next one, which is a whole month later. The Calgary real estate market changes very fast. Things changed on a week-to-week basis. And so this helps us identify any change in trends. And if you've not seen any of my other property videos, definitely go to my channel and check them out. I do one for each property type. And in this video, we're going to go over all the data for apartments and see how things have changed over the past 2 weeks and what we expect to happen going forward. So without further ado, looking right into the data right here, as you can see, I have 4 graphs. We have the price drop on the top left, and we have the above and below list price on the top right, days on market at the bottom left, and sold price on the bottom right. And a caveat with this is I do restrict the graphs to look at the affordable part of the market with some leeway. So for example, for apartments, I've actually set it to 650,000, which I feel is a fair amount because, of course, if you look at everything, there are apartments that sell for $1 million, $2 million and up. And then that just really doesn't show you the true market sentiment. What we are trying to understand here through this video is where the sellers are at, where the buyers are at in terms of their emotions and how motivated the market is on both sides. So looking at price drops right here, you can see we had significantly more price drops at the start of the year. That was in middle of Jan. And then that reduced as buyer pressures went up. So people were willing to pay and take properties off the market. It was a crazy spring market, early spring market. But now actually something that people are not talking about is as you enter April and more so May, price drops have entered the market back again. Now, this can happen for a couple of different reasons. It can either be that inventory's gone up or buyer demand's gone down, or people started overpricing their properties right around the middle of March. And so now they need to correct back to true market value because the buyers are not willing to pay that much. And we will look into the data that will help us identify what is the real reason behind this. As far as the above and below list price, so this tracks how much a buyer is willing to pay above and below list price over a period of time. And as you can see, the longer term trend over here. So initially, buyers in December to early Jan, were actually paying mostly under list price. And then that quickly went above the 0 mark, where now buyers were paying significantly above, all the way up to maybe even 75, 80,000 above list price in certain cases. But not only has that started plateauing towards the start of May, but that actually, to me, looks like it's starting to drop a little bit. And I would attribute that to the frequency. So it's, as you can see, there's a high saturation right around here. There's a high saturation around here, which then picks the data up. But I'm seeing that frequency reduce a little bit, even though the magnitude to the extent to which buyers are willing to pay above this price hasn't really gone down. Taking a look at days on market. Now, days on market is extremely important because that is really what drives what are the options available to the buyer, how much do they have to pick from, and something that we are seeing across all property types, and we can kind of even see it in apartments right here. Days on market was a lot more at the start of the year, and that diminished all the way till somewhere in the end of April. And now we're just seeing a sideways movement. In certain property types, certain districts, we are even seeing this tick up. So we are seeing higher amounts of inventory available for the buyers to pick from. So again, this could be one of the reasons that we were seeing the price drops reduce as we came into May. As far as sold price goes, the sold price steadily kept increasing from the start of the year. Each of these sub-segments is $50,000 increase. So as you can see here, we started somewhere here and we've almost done about a 25,000 trend line increase. And so the sold price isn't really reflecting any change yet. We're still seeing constant gains week over week, and that has been consistent from the start of the month. There's no downward trend just yet. And this is, of course, all districts. So now what we will do is we will also not just analyze, this is all of Calgary together within that affordable part of the market, and it reflects the sentiment. Overall, what I'm seeing is there is an increase in inventory, very small amount, which is then allowing the price drops to either increase or stabilize. But the thing is, buyers are still, to an extent, paying above list price, just not as often as they did before. And so the sold price at the end of the day still continues to go up. And now what we are going to do is actually look at individual districts. There are 8 districts in Calgary. And I always say this is where these graphs really shine, because it's very important to understand that each community or district has its own micro economy running. And so you can't just apply the data of the entire of Calgary to understand any given district. So starting from the top, you're going to, of course, look at city center being the most popular part for apartments. So going right over here, we're not filtering by all districts. Instead, we'll just pick city center. And what's happening in city center? So in city center, you can see clearly the price drops is still pretty prevalent, right? It's starting to trend towards zero, but a very, very small amount. And that's just like 1 week of data. So it's not really enough to mark a trend, but we do see that the pace at which it dropped here, it's now going towards a sideways trend. So it's stabilizing. As far as people paying above and below list price in city center, you can see it from the start of the year, we were very low. So you got a lot of great deals here at the start of Jan and start of December. And all of that went towards zero. And then what we are seeing is even though the frequency is dropping, the magnitude is pretty high. So this is like end of April, and it's one of the highest above list price all the way since start of Jan. And in terms of people paying below list price, the magnitude's actually relatively reducing. We had a lot more people around here paying a lot lesser than list price, but now, as you can see, this is actually reducing, which is sort of causing it to stabilize. If you look at the days on market, clearly you can tell there's an upward swing. So we're having a little bit more inventory on the market now. It's stabilized right around here and then started picking back up. So I think you would expect to see the inventory for apartments go up in the next market report. And as far as the sold price goes, it was pretty stable for pretty slow increase for the start of the year. Surprisingly enough, we are actually seeing a pickup in city center as far as house prices go. So that's where individual districts can vary a little bit from just looking at the overall picture. We will now look at East to see how East is performing. And of course, there's significantly much lesser data when you look at some of these districts, depending on how many apartment buildings are actually there. But it still gives you a fair idea for some of these graphs how the overall market is trending for those districts. So as we look at the above and below list price versus stat date, you can see over here, initially people were playing significantly above list price. But now we are seeing a lot of properties prop up here where people are actually paying below list price. So if you're looking for a property in East, there might actually be opportunities to get some really good deals. As far as days on market goes, so days on market versus stat date. So as you can see, the days on market diminishes. So this is seems like a common trend across all districts so far. And that is stabilizing and having more of a sideways trend. So I wouldn't necessarily say inventory is going to be picking up, but there are still some great deals to be had. And how does that reflect in sold price? So the sold price actually dropped since the start of the year, and only now is starting to pick back up a little bit. But there might still be some good deals to be had if you're able to get something under list price. And of course, that depends on now whether they've priced it accurately or they've just overpriced it. As far as North goes, So North, we have good amount of data. As you can see, the price drop, there were a few more price drops in March, but April, that saw it going back up. We only have really one data point. As far as people paying above and below list price, North is actually doing pretty well since the start of the year. Since at the start of the year, it was a lot closer to zero on both sides. But now you can see not just the frequency, but also but the magnitude to which people are paying above this price is going up. Days on market, that would explain why above and below list price is doing so well. You see the days on market, they've still not entered the sideways movement. The days on market is dropping, and so we are seeing lesser and lesser inventory. So for anyone looking to purchase a property in the north, an apartment, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of demand for that. And then that is also, of course, reflected in the sold price. So the sold price also hasn't stagnated yet when it comes to apartments in the north. We're still seeing an upwards trend, and it's still nowhere close to having that $50,000 increase. I would say this is about 15, maybe 20,000. And so north seems to be performing pretty well when it comes to apartments. How about northeast? As far as northeast goes, it looks like the above and below list price also is trending really well. I say that's some of the effect from the north probably. And as far as days on market, again, so you see how these graphs are related. All of them come together to tell the same story. So the days on market is still diminishing. There's no sideways movement just yet. And so the inventory is still dropping as far as northeast goes. And so people are willing to pay above this price to get hold of those properties. So there's still a lot of competition in northeast. If you're shopping in northeast, that's what you can expect. As far as sold price goes, because of that amount of competition of the diminishing inventory and people paying above this price, you can see the sold price a strong trend up, especially in the last 1 month and especially also in the last 2 weeks. We broke past this subsegment here and we are heading off on top. So this is a pretty good increase, about maybe 25,000 since the start of the year. And the next quadrant we're going to look at is Northwest. So as far as Northwest goes, in terms of price drops, you can see there's not enough data to really mark a trend, but overall there were more price drops in Jan and then more price drops over in April. As far as the people paying above and below list price, it looks like it was actually pretty hot right around here. So April time, a lot of people paying above this price. It hasn't really reduced dramatically just yet. We still have people paying above this price, but just the frequency has dropped. So more properties maybe are selling, given that the people buying below list hasn't really increased as much. I would say more properties are selling at list price, and there are a few properties that are still selling above list. And that would then connect down to days on market like all other quadrants. And it makes perfect sense because when you look over here, the days on market was diminishing all the way down till middle of April and then started picking back up. So we do have a few more options now. And so it's just the buyers don't feel like they need to rush in when they want to buy a property here. And as far as sold price goes, because the days on market is not dramatically increasing, it's just basically, so what's happened with the sold price is it increased a lot from the start of the year. And then I would say it's still increasing. The overall pace has probably reduced a little bit, but we're still heading up and there's no sign of coming down just yet. But if next month or in 2 weeks, essentially when I run this again, if the days on market increases dramatically or reaches anywhere close to the levels at the start of the year, then you would potentially see the sold price stagnate. Looking at South. So how is South performing? South isn't doing too well. South actually looks a lot like what I was thinking Northwest is going to look like in a month from now. So as you can see, a significant drop in the amount of people paying above this price. Not really too much with people paying below list. It's pretty small. Still, the magnitude for paying above list is a lot more, but just the frequency has dropped versus March was a very hot time for properties in the South. And the days on market also is reflecting that exact trend. In fact, this is probably the strongest upward swing that we have seen in apartments. So South is seeing the most inventory pop up. In terms of the days on market, clearly we have a lot more properties here, nowhere close to what we were at the start of the year. But clearly end of March was the tightest time for apartments in the South. As far as sold price goes, looking at the sold price, you can see we started increasing right over here, and we've pretty much flatlined from that point where we were at its tightest. So when we had the most competition was right about here, and then after that point with the increase in inventory, now there's not that much of a buyer rush. So actually, if you're looking for an apartment in South, there might be some good opportunities, and it might be a market you want to look into. How about Southeast? Now Southeast, again, there's a limited number of data points and options, but it still gives us a good enough picture looking at how people are paying above and below this price. So the price drop, quite a few price drops. So that's interesting to see the seller sentiment compared to the start of the year. So let's see how that connects to the other graphs. The above and below this price. So we had a lot of people in March actually paying above this price and to a very high amount. That's why the push on the trend line. The frequency sort of increased here, but now people are not willing to stretch as far. And that is very interesting to see. And that would then connect to the days on market. As we can see, the days on market, the pace has changed. It was dropping dramatically, but now it's starting to move sideways. So again, I wonder if this is another segment of the market where we might see an upward swing, give it another 2 weeks, and you might even have the above and below risk price drop even more. And as far as sold price goes, still seeing pretty good gains all the way from the start of the year. I would say it's a little stronger around here, and then I think it's sort of slowing down, but it's very short timeline to be able to tell for sure. So we would need at least another 2 weeks of data to confirm that, but that all those graphs together tell the same story. And finally, we have West. So what's happening in West? Let's check it out. West is actually performing really well. So West is still not seeing the things from other parts of the market. Clearly, West, people are not only paying above list, but a lot above list, and that hasn't gone down. In fact, you're seeing some properties that are even more than March. The highest was here in April, 80,000 above list price. And second after that was somewhere here at 66,000 above list price. But otherwise, I would say May is doing pretty well so far for Western apartments. And that would, there you go. So days on market tells you clearly why that's happening. Because while we had stagnated on days on market till this point, we've seen a dramatic drop. So either people are not listing or buyers are taking the properties off the market pretty quickly still in the West. And so West still remains very competitive for apartments. How is the sold price performing? So the sold price, as you can see, tells the same story from the start of the year till about March. Even though the price was increasing, it was pretty slow. But from this point till here, I think we've already seen about $10,000 or $12,000 increase, given that each segment is $50,000. So a lot stronger increase. And I think West is actually the only exception that's going against the trend for the remaining quadrants. Some of them are either stagnating or slowing down, while as West is actually just got started. So West is the best performing as far as apartments go. And overall, you can tell that as far as the overall apartments go, you're still going to have more options. It's just now you know in which districts you actually have more options. And something else to do, because this is a very important criteria for people looking to buy apartments, is to look into or sort by condo fees. And this tells you not just based on the overall listing price how properties are doing, but certain people, the hottest part of the market is apartments that have good condo fees, right? And so that's going to reflect true buyer sentiment. And let's have a quick look at that. So let's go less than and equal to, let's just do 600. You can see that the sold price is actually climbing a lot faster in that very specific segment. And as far as people paying above and below list price, the trend line is further away from that zero mark versus the main. just looking at all properties below 650. So, and the reason why this matters so much is because that is the most competitive part of the market. So people are willing to forego looking at apartments that are above 650 in terms of condo fee, for example, and rather pay more upfront on the price of the property and try to get those properties off the market. And so the lower and lower you go with this condo fee, you're going to see it gets more and more competitive, which is very interesting. And then again, you can like look at each district and see how that is doing and where the preference is. And I would say probably city center is where the lowest condo, because it's very hard to get a good condo fee in city center. And so that's probably where you're going to see the most competition. As far as days on market goes, slight upward trend tick here. So that's the core sentiment, because it's the final criteria that buyers set. So if that's ticking up and there's more inventory picking, I think you're going to see this drop a little bit, which I think you already do. Yeah, you're seeing this trend down back again. So again, highest competition right around here in April, start of May, but now going into May, we are seeing that drop. So that was very insightful. And of course, it goes through all the different districts. And depending on the property that you're looking for in Calgary, feel free to reach out and we can customize this not just by districts, but also by the subdivisions. So depending on the district that you actually pick, you can pick the subdivisions that you're actually interested in living in. And that is even more insightful, because now you know the micro trends and how much the demand is and how much the competition is within any given community. And of course, that does limit the amount of data points that we have to compare. So generally, we want to look at also neighboring communities to get a clearer picture. But this is extremely helpful. I usually help, I provide this data to my buyers and sellers so that they are on top of the market and they understand exactly what's happening on a daily basis. Now, getting into the other part of the data that I usually collect is to further understand the buyer and seller sentiments, is to see how many price drops, price increases, or no change to list price has happened for properties. And essentially, how do buyers respond to that? So when a property sees a price drop, do they still want to pay above list or below list? Same for the other two. So price increases and no change on price. And that tells you how driven the market is at any given time. So moving over to the month one. So right over here, you can see 4 months of data. So month one on the top left, month two on the bottom left, month three, and then month four. So if you follow my cursor, looking at month one right over here, I'll analyze. If you want to read more into this, feel free to pause, but I'll just summarize the trends that I've observed. So buyers are actually paying above or below list price. Really varies a lot from month to month. Right now, there's no single trend. There is, however, a reverse in trend of people paying above list price for properties that have seen a drop in price, with increase in those actually paying below list. So right around here, you could see that from month one to month two, the market picked up a lot in terms of the amount of people paying above list, right? And right over here, that dropped to 39, 42. So there's no real trend. But if you just look at the properties that saw price drop, so in terms of the price drop, it went from 10 to 13% right over here. And then in month three, it went to 16. So we saw a consistent increase in competition for people paying above list. And this was also reflective in the graphs. But over the last 1 month, we've actually seen that drop back down to 13.89%. So clearly that is reflective of the slowdown that we were seeing in the graph. So this helps confirm a lot of those buyer and seller sentiments. The other trend that we are noticing is the same reverse is also seen in properties that had a price increase. So for example, right here, so price increase above list price, you can see that people were initially paying 28% of people were paying above list price. That then changed to 36%. It went to 43. So clear increase over time. But again, now over the last month, only 30% of the people paid above this price for properties that saw a price increase. So clearly buyers are not buying into paying just any amounts of money. Certain areas are very competitive, but overall, this is the trend that's playing out. And the other interesting thing to see is for both of these, the amount of people paying below list, actually for the first one, the people paying below list increased. So while the people paying above list went from 16 to 13, the price drop and below list went from 71% to 78%. So more people are actually paying below list for properties that see a price drop. And that is when you realize an influx, like a change happening in the market where sellers are now stuck with the price that they initially set. They need to drop the price to try to get the property off the market. But not only that, the buyers also realize that these sellers need to get their properties off the market, and they come in and try and get good deals and actually pay below list. So the buyers are not as desperate as 1 month ago anymore. So overall, apartments may have already reached what I call a greed point. A greed point is where the sellers see the property prices just going and increasing rapidly, and then what ends up happening is the gap between what the true market value is and what the sellers would love to get for their property is too big. And so they end up overpricing their property, which then causes the buyers to no longer agree with that price point. And that property doesn't get looked at, then sees price drops, correction back to market value. But now buyers can either take advantage and pay below list price or just buy it at that price. But there's a clear disagreement between buyer and seller sentiment. And that's what I see right here. So now it's reversing back to an equal point or a balance where buyers and sellers have a fair understanding of what the true market value is. During this time, usually you'll see an increase in inventory, especially in certain districts, not just across all over Calgary. And it will give you a few more options for what to pick from. So now I would say it's still early to say because I only have 2 weeks of this happening, but potentially we are already entering into the summer market where things are a little bit more mellow and you'd have a few more opportunities on the market as more people list. And eventually we'll end up again in fall, and during fall time, again, there's a lot of competition because there's a rush to get properties, whether this year for those who want and before the winter hits. And same thing for sellers who want to sell this year before winter hits. So you're going to see a huge amount of activity again in fall. So if you want some good deals, and if you're absolutely certain you want to enter the market this year, now might be a great time because what we have is more options. The other time you get great deals is about in the winter. And if you wait around in the winter, the problem is you don't have as many options. The inventory is generally pretty low, but you also get some good options. But no one wants to go shopping for houses in the winter. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, show me your support. Definitely drop a like. Thanks for watching till the end. And if you like this kind of content, definitely stay tuned. This channel is all about providing you value to help you make better decisions in the Calgary real estate market. My link's in the description. Feel free to reach out. Let's book a call. I would love to talk to you about more data like this and help you make a better decision, whether you're looking to make a move in the next 3, 6, or 12 months, because we got to set you up with a game plan. There's no one size that fits all. So depending on what you're looking to achieve, I would love to chat with you and understand your situation. Till next time, take care.